busy long weekend here at Harrison Hot Springs, so let's find a shady place to talk. All right, let's do that. Let's find a shady place to talk. Not shady in sort of a seedy, underhanded place, but shady in the way that there's not as much light. Sunlight, that is. Train the muscles, not the joints. Oh, this might work. All right. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, here's what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about my last video, because there's always somebody that jumps on my channel and then they say, hey, there's this one scenario where I find that I'm building muscle mass doing the opposite of what you're saying, or at least maybe a subtle deviation of what you're saying in the video. So basically my point was in the superset video was that you want to make sure that the cardio is not the weak link, because if cardio is the weak link, then that's what your body will adapt to. It won't necessarily put on muscle or size or strength that easily, right? Because you're making the cardio the weak link. So the cardio is going to basically be the dominating factor in when your set hits failure. So the bottom line with this is that there's one caveat to this, and this one person said they don't take rest in between sets, so they just go from one exercise to the next, to the next, to the next, and they don't find there's any issue whatsoever. So one thing to consider is a giant set and a superset are not the same thing. A superset means you're using two different exercises, like say bicep curl and tricep, or bench press and bent over row, and they're basically antagonistic muscles, and there's two exercises and you're going back to back. So we know by going back to back, no pun intended, you actually have a limited amount of rest. Now in a giant set circumstance, you could have any level of exercises. You could have like 10, 15, 20 exercises, and by the time you come back around to a given body part, you might have 4, 5, 6 minutes rest in between sets. So it stands to reason that you could have very little rest in a giant set type workout and still get some great results, just because the muscles that you're working do get a fair amount of rest, so they have time to replenish the creatine and the glycogen stores. Now the caveat to this is that if you are doing a giant set type scenario, if your cardio isn't so good, your cardio can become the weak link, and that can actually limit your workout. But if you have awesome cardio, then maybe that's a great way for you to work out, because you basically are going to replenish your creatine stores and glycogen by the time you come back around to a muscle group. So there was a gentleman that was saying that he doesn't take any rest at all, and he just trains and he just goes back to back to back to back. Well, these could be a couple factors that play a role in why this may be working for him. The other factor is that if you have a really high level of slow twitch fiber content in your body, that will play a major role in what type of exercise and what type of sets and how much rest you need in between sets, and how frequent you should train. Like, all these factors will change if you have a high slow twitch fiber content, a high endurance amount of muscle in your body, right? Some people have a higher percentage of endurance fibers, and some people have a higher percentage of fast twitch fibers. So depending on what's going on will actually dictate what type of technique will work the best for you, what rest will work the best for you, etc., right? So you get my point. So every situation is individual, but as a general rule, you do need to make sure that the muscle is the weak link, not the breath, right? How you go about this, I don't care, but the muscle has to become the weak link. That has to be the thing that hits failure or hits exhaustion in order to force an adaptation in that area, or in that little ecosystem called your mountain. So there is a caveat, okay? First of all, if you don't have a ton of muscle mass, if you're not really that strong, then sometimes just doing a circuit type training is more than effective enough for you to get better than you were, because we're not talking about elite bodybuilding here. We're not talking about elite levels of muscle mass. That's definitely something to consider. So when somebody's a beginner, it doesn't matter what they do, as long as they're intense, they're going to gain some sort of muscle mass, they're going to get some sort of muscle tone. But as you get closer and closer to your genetic limit, or to the higher echelons of achievement in bodybuilding, you're going to have a higher level of accountability and impeccability to hitting the muscle properly with the fast twitch fibers and the slow twitch fibers, instead of just, you know, being intense and just doing the shotgun approach to your training. So that said, the other thing is that this person said they're not taking rest in between sets. That's all they said. They didn't tell me exactly how they're doing this, but they just said they're not taking rest and they get perfect results. Well, if you're not taking rest in between sets and you're doing the same body part, that's pretty much impossible, right? Because if you're doing your bicep exercise and you're doing as many repetitions as you can, and then you rest 0 seconds, and then you continue to do bicep curls, well, obviously that's impossible because you already hit failure, right? So he must be talking about circuit training here. So circuit training means you're going from chest, you're going to biceps, you're going to back, you're going to legs, you're going back and forth in the circuit. Now, the caveat on this of whether this could be an effective way for you to train or not, is if your cardio is really awesome and you find that you're never out of breath, even though you're pushing your muscles right to the max, well, then maybe you can put on muscle mass in this case. And the other caveat is that if you have high levels of slow twitch fibers in comparison to fast twitch fibers, this might be a really effective way for you to train. Who knows, right? But in the end, I always subscribe to the approach, whatever works, just do that. And if it's working, if you're putting on muscle mass, if you're getting leaner, or if you're achieving whatever goal you have in mind, and whatever you're doing is working, well, continue doing that. I'm not against it. I don't have any religion about how I'm training here. I'm just here to show you the general trend of what I've seen over the 30 years of what was the most effective. But of course, I always deviated in one training technique or another just to see if I can get some results from doing something different, right? So I am experimenting with super short rest in between sets from time to time too. Like I'll do bench presses, as many reps as I can do, and then just do 30-second rest and then go right back to a set of bench press again. And I notice I get a different type of pump, a different type of failure. So sometimes I visit that from time to time. So yeah, I'm always open to something. I'm always open to new techniques. It's just a matter of what works, right? So yeah, feel free to experiment and feel free to find what is exactly the right technique for you. So I'm open to that because there's always a million different factors that come into play. So thanks a lot for watching. And if you need to get home, just go to naturallandbodybuilding.com. And thanks a lot to the Patreon supporters. These guys are making this content possible. So thanks a lot, guys. I really, honestly, I really do appreciate it. And take care for now.